Look at our Italian rainbow cookies. One of my favorite cookies. Not a big cookie fan, but there are a few exceptions to what I do like, and this is it. Very popular around this season, so I'm happy that this season's on and popping because sure love some rainbow cookies. Hi, I'm Chef Fran, and today we're making rainbow cookies. Not sure if you're familiar what they are, but it is an Italian cookie, and it is basically made with almond paste, almond flour, and I use coconut flour too. Now, this is done many different versions, and you can look it up and see that people do it so many different ways. But the most thing about it is that it has this beautiful red and green, and the plain color is just like yellow beige kind of, and it's so decadent because it has chocolate and it has the filling of, either apricot or raspberry. I like to put them both, again, because I like to do things differently, and it's just a decadent cookie. It's really more like, to me, like a petit four. And a petit four, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's just bite-sized little like cakes. So to me, it's more like a cake than a cookie, but they call it cookie. And it's small like a petit four. So we are going to do rainbow cookies. Okay, so to make our rainbow cookies, we have almond paste. We have our almond flour, our coconut flour. Now, some people do use all-purpose flour. So again, my thing is always use what you have. So if you don't have any of these plant-based flours at home and you don't want to purchase any, you can use all-purpose flour, but you definitely need the almond paste. You need the almond paste regardless because it's really all about that, but you'll definitely need it if you're going to use all-purpose flour. Sugar, I use cane sugar. I'm more a lover of cane sugar, but if you have regular sugar, use that. Definitely need almond extract, pure almond extract. You can use also a little bit of vanilla extract with it if you like. You can choose which preserve, which filling you like. I'm using apricot as well as raspberry jam, but you can choose one or the other. You definitely need your butter. I like to use a little sour cream because the acid in it helps keep the cake very moist. So I prefer to use sour cream, but you do not have to. What you do have to do is separate your eggs. So these are 4 eggs. I separated it. Here's the whites, which I'll put in this mixer. The only thing is when you're doing egg whites, please bear in mind that your mixer must be super clean. You may even want to clean it with a little bit of vinegar. It can't have like any cross-contamination or anything else before. So it has to be super, super clean. So actually this is my new mixer. So love it. It's cordless, works on its own. So really great. So I'm going to put my egg whites in here. So it could be fluffy, not stiff peaks, but fluffy. Because I'm going to fold that into my batter before I separate into colors. Egg yolks is going to go in my regular mixer along with my almond paste, which is going to be first, with some sugar, and then I'm going to put the eggs in one by one and kind of break that down, and butter. Okay, and I have here, so here's my egg whites like I showed you, my butter, my sour cream. Here is just my salt. I have a little bit of Himalayan salt. That's the salt that I prefer to use, but use the salt that you have at home. The eggs that are separated, heavy cream. Now, most people usually do, like, the great thing about this cookie, I'm going to call it a little bit of a petit four, is that the top of it is coated with chocolate. And usually people will melt like chocolate and add a little bit of oil to it. It can't be olive oil. It has to be like a non-tasting oil like vegetable or canola that doesn't have like a taste back And they do that so it doesn't break your chocolate when it comes from being from the refrigerator for you to cut it. And so I'm actually going to make a ganache. So I have a little bit of heavy cream and I have my chocolate that I'll melt to do the ganache. Again, you could do it exactly the way I'm doing it, or you can kind of get creative. Like I always say, it's about creating a wheel or reinventing a wheel, or you could do that. And so this is my chocolate, and that's my heavy cream to make my ganache. And that's all you need. And of course, what's key and important to making this cookie is color. You need green food coloring, and you need red food coloring. These are professional colors that I use, professional gel colors, because I happen to be a pastry chef as well as a culinary chef. But that's what I'm using. You can go to the store and just get the McCormick one that they use in red velvet, and green food coloring as well. And so now we're going to get started. So this is a special cookie because it is a little bit pricey. So again, use all-purpose flour if that's what you have at home. So this is the almond paste, what it looks like. It's about $13 in the store to buy it. It's wrapped in this special foil, and it looks like this when you take it out. Now, you can make your own if you take some blanched almond flour, some powdered sugar, confections sugar, egg whites, and some almond extract, and you can save money that way and do your own. I am crunched for time, so I had to get this. But again, want to give you some tips. So what I'm going to do here is that and this is 7 ounces. Normally you need 8, but you can get away with 7, and we're going to get away with 7 because we're not going to go buy another box for $13 just for 1 ounce. So we're going to make it happen. So you can cut it with your hands, use a knife. Just want to cut it in some small pieces. Going to get it going in your mixer. Just so you get all of it in here, just cut into small pieces. And we're just gonna beat that to try to get it smooth before we start adding our sugar, our eggs and butter. Okay, so we're gonna whisk it on medium-high. Not whisk it, but beat it, rather, on medium-high. So I'm going to pour my egg whites in here so they can start to get fluffy. Because I gotta get them fluffy. Now this is gonna work all by itself. Okay, so while that's doing that, I'm over here working with my paste. I'm gonna add my 1 cup of sugar. My 1 cup of sugar, and I needed 1 cup of butter. So that's 2 sticks. Now remember now, this is the holidays, so things are a little rich. This is not diet time. That's next one for the new year, when we all make that resolution. You know it, the one that we always do. We're gonna lose weight this year. But right now, it's all about enjoying the festivities, getting the party on before the diet comes. So I'm just cutting some of my butter that I'm going to mix here with my sugar and the almond paste. That's why it's good when you do the coating for the ganache. Well, I'm doing the ganache. When people just do the chocolate on top, that they usually tend to do dark chocolate because you have all the sweetness from this inside. So it'd be too rich if you did like milk chocolate and way too sweet. So, okay. Okay. My second butter here. And then I'm just gonna let that, see how that's getting kind of fluffy over there. Let's just keep that going. So your butter has to be soft. So you definitely want to leave it at room temperature and let it be soft. And once I get this to be fluffed up, as well from the sugar and the paste. Then we'll add our egg yolk one by one before we get into our dry. And our dry will be our 2 flours and a little bit of salt. Now this turns out to be a really thin layered cake that you're gonna stack one on top of one another. Now it takes a while to do because usually you have to kind of get it flattened. So we're actually gonna build our filling, and before we put the chocolate, that's the very last step, we have to put it in the refrigerator for a couple of hours and way down. So we'll put like a tray on top of it, obviously parchment paper tray, and maybe like some cans or whatever, because we want to bring the weight down and flatten it. Okay, so here I am. I wanted you to see this, how this is nice and fluffy. And I'm going to add my egg. I'm going to add my egg in here one by one. And I already have my flours, my almond flour is already measured out, 1 1/2 cup, and my coconut flour, 1/2 cup is measured out, and my little 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And this, I'm gonna start in the mixer when I add it, after it's all incorporated with the egg, and then I'm gonna finish it by hand. Then I'll separate them out and add the color with the egg white and mix it in. Before that, I will add some sour cream. So we're gonna go step by step. I'm adding the egg, like I said, one by one. I've already added one. This is my second. I have 2 more left. Increase my speed so it can be fully incorporated. But I'm gonna stop so I can scrape the sides. You always want to do that, particularly if you have in this case, I don't have leavening agents. Well, the egg white is gonna really kind of be my leavening agent. And yes, did you know that you can actually have egg white be your leavening agent? But this is not a cake that we really need. Well, cookie, I'm calling it petit four cake, that really rises. However, it is really important if you're using something that has baking powder, baking soda, some form of leavening agent. Flaxseed can even be a leavening agent. You can use it in baking as well. I'm not sure if you knew that, but now you know. So it could be a replacement for your eggs, your egg white in baking. So with that said, it is really imperative that you always stop and scrape your sides, so that way all the leavening agent will be fully incorporated in your batter. Because if not, you will find that some parts of your batter, your baked good, whatever you're making, will rise and some part will not, because it's stuck to the walls of your mixer. So it's really important that you always constantly stop and scrape your bowls. So my last egg kind of fell apart a little bit in here, but that's okay. So get all of it. There we go. Again, we want to get this all incorporated down in here. Okay, so I'm putting in some of the almond flour. I've already put in my coconut flour, some of my almond flour. I've already done 1/2 cup of the almond flour. I've already done some sour cream. And I've also done all the coconut flour, which was 1/2 cup. And so here's the almond. Again, we start with flour, right? And we end with flour. I'm going to stop it to add my sour cream now. And then I'm going to pull it off. I'm going to pull it off and do the rest by hand. Okay. Now, going to finish incorporating the rest by hand because I don't want to overbeat. Okay, so here we go. I am going to now get my egg whites that I have whipped up and fold them into 3 parts. This is for my red, my green, and this is for my plain. This is so cute. This mixer has a little stand, like you take off your beaters and you just lay it down right there. Now I just want to make sure I have enough. I feel like this has actually a little bit more, so I'm gonna steal some from this one to add to this one. It just feels like this has a little bit more. I'm gonna add a little bit over here. Because nobody wants to be jealous, right, Fran? Okay. So now I'm just gonna fold this here while I actually add my red food coloring. Now I like it to be red. So this is gonna be red. It's not gonna be your typical pinkish. And then we're gonna spread it out on our pan, parchment paper, and then our pan. So of course when you cook, it gets a little lighter. So I might make it just a tad bit darker. The same thing, I'm not gonna put any color in here because this is gonna be our plain one. And this is gonna be very thin. See, I want it to be a little darker. So I'm actually gonna put a little bit more color. Kind of like when I make red velvet cake, I want it to be boom, in your face red. It's kind of like the same thing. If I want a pink cookies, I'll make pink cookies, but I want red. Now, this is something when you're using gel food coloring, you want to make it in a glass bowl or stainless steel. You do not want to make it in plastic because it will stick. You will ruin your plasticware because the color will remain as it is with that red or green or blue, whatever color you're using. So it's best to use stainless steel or glass. Okay, so now you want to fold it. See, I still have the color here. So I'm folding it. I wish you could smell this. You could smell all this almond kind of going on here. And it just smells scrumptious. If you love almond, it's where it's at. I'm gonna take my sheet pan here, just so you can kind of see what I have kind of going on here. So this is our red one. Red cookie cake, whatever we want to call it. But our batter that's spread out, and our green. This was forest green, Christmas red, and this is just our plain almond batter. And so I'm just trying to smooth it out the best that I can. And then we're gonna put it in the oven on 325 for 12 to 15 minutes. It does not need long. You just want it to get just a little brown and obviously cooked inside. You can stick a toothpick or actually have one of those cake things that you just stick it in. The inside of it is metal, just to see if it's done. But since this is very thin, we don't have to really worry about that in this case because this is a very, very, very thin cake. Then obviously I'll show you the assembly, but it's going to take some time, and because we got to let it cool, and then we'll put the preserves in between, and then it's got to go in the fridge to like set for like 4 hours minimum. Really overnight would be best, but you can get away with 4 hours, and we got to apply weight on it. So we'll transfer this to like a cutting board, and we'll apply a tray on top of it, parchment paper in a tray, and some items on top of it, just to kind of make it, you know, squeeze down. Okay, so I have our red, our green. This is forest green, Christmas red, and this is just plain almond batter with the almond paste. In the end, I mixed the egg white, but I didn't put any colors because it had to remain plain. So it's almond flour, coconut flour, the almond paste, some sugar, some egg yolk, egg whites, all in here. Great stuff. So I just had to smooth it out. It's, again, for me, I'm going to call this a cake. Comment below if you think that it looks like a cookie or if it looks like a cake. So I'm calling it cookie cake, but more like a petit four. So to me, it's more like a cake. But let me know what your thoughts are below. So I just smoothed this out as best as I could. And we're going to put it in the oven on 350 for about 12 to 15 minutes. Now, here's a pro tip. Being the fact that when you take your things out from the oven, it still continues to cook. So in actuality, if you took it out 2 to 3 minutes prior to it being done, it still will be great and it'll be nice and moist. I'm not referring to this per se because this is super thin, but like any of your baked goods. Because when you go to exact time frame as what the baked good requires, what happens is that when you take it out, it's still, the internal temperature is still very hot and it's still cooking your product. So if you take it out 2 to 3 minutes before and you just let it sit on the cooling rack, it will be fine. And you'll get that nice cooked but still moist product as opposed to possibly being over dried. This is going to go in the oven, like I said, for a short period of time. And when we come back, we're going to assemble it with the preserves. I'm going to do 1 layer raspberry, 1 layer apricot. That's me. Some people just do one. There are a few people who do both. Now, it's what you have at home. I always say do what or you could exactly replicate what I did with both of them. And so we'll do that. And then also we're going to have to apply weight on it. So we'll put parchment paper once they're assembled, put parchment paper on it, and then we'll put a tray with like some canned items or whatever on it just to get that weight so it can actually smoosh down, flatten down. And then we'll do our ganache and apply it and let that sit in the fridge before we cut it up into petit fours, because really it gets cut up into small cubes like petit fours. So let's do that. Let's put this in the oven. Now, the unevenness of the lines, don't worry about it. It will not mess up how it cooks. And also you won't even see it because that's where we're going to put our preserves on that, because we're going to use the back side of it, which will be a lot flatter. So that's what will get the ganache. But this here with the little ridges and things like that, a little bit of not being so perfectly flat, well, it's going to get the preserves on them. Well, these are pretty thin, so thinner than I thought it came out. So I will not need to weigh them down. So let me go ahead and put the raspberry first. And this is my green layer. I'm just spreading this out. And I made my ganache. All I did was take some chips and I took some heavy cream, let that come almost right to a boil, and then poured it over my chips and just let it sit for 2-3 minutes till it was starting to all melt up, and then I just started to mix it in. And so this is our ganache for the top and possibly the bottom, I'll see, of our rainbow cookies. I want to say cake. Okay. Don't want to be stingy, want to be generous. So comes some maneuvering there. It's about maneuvering. So now I tell you, it's not easy putting them together, because you have to have like a cutting board and have another board to kind of like meet you halfway and kind of like try to stick them together. Now, because they're so delicate, there are some pieces that will break, but it's okay. No one's gonna know, no one's gonna see it, because you're gonna have your preserves, one, covering it, and two, it's gonna be covered at the top with chocolate. So people are gonna be so immersed in the chocolate and eating the cookie itself, they're not even gonna know what took place inside that. You might have had a crack or two. So this cookie is very forgiving in that aspect. Some people prefer the raspberry, some people prefer the apricot, some people prefer both like me. Okay. Now here we go again with the temperament of the red one that we have to now connect. If you have someone who can help you, even better. Even better if you have someone who can kind of give you a little hand. So this is how I try to connect it really quickly. Like this. Just want to be able to move it a little bit so I can get that piece right here. And it's okay, like I said, we're going to have the chocolate covering it up. So now that's the downside to making rainbow cookies. It is temperamental, but that's okay. We got it. We got past it. And we're going to put the chocolate. And then we're going to let it chill. Now you could do the bottom if you like. Some people do, some people don't. I'll have to see if I have enough chocolate left, or if I want to make more chocolate, if to do the bottom. Or you can end right here on the top. So you just kind of want to turn it around. Gotta put more chocolate. It looks like I'm gonna have to probably make more chocolate if I want to do the bottom. You don't have to. It's a preference. It's a preference thing. That means you gotta get some more heavy cream, so it's almost at boiling, and then massage and get your chips going again. So I'm not sure if I want to do all that. And then you have to go let this chill so it sets, because ganache, once it gets cold, it sets pretty hard. And then you cut these into like little petit fours once they're done. So that's why I tend to call it, petit four. But they're really called rainbow cookies. Italian rainbow cookies. And then I'm going to make a little design with the fork, just kind of like waves with the fork so it can set that way. So I'll show you what that is when I come back. Our vitamin content for our rainbow cookies are eggs, A, B2, B5, B6, B12, E, D, K, and iron. Cane sugar, A, B1, B2, B6, C, niacin, pantothenic acid. Almond flour, E, manganese, magnesium, iron, calcium, potassium. Almond paste, B3, B5, B6, and E. Coconut flour, B1, B2, B5, B6, C, manganese, and thiamine. Butter, A, B12, D, E, and K2. Himalayan salt, calcium, iron, magnesium, potassium. Almond extract, B6, riboflavin, niacin, pantothenic acid. Raspberry preserve or jam, CE, psyllium. Apricot preserve, ACE, beta-carotene, and potassium. Real facts. 1 in 4 veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan war are food insecure. Overall, 12% of veterans have reported having very low food security. You can learn more by visiting us at jdhcdc.org. If you've never eaten a petit four before, if you've never even eaten a rainbow cookie before, you need to do so. You need to try it. Try something at least once. If you love almonds, this is the dessert for you. You love dark chocolate, this is the dessert for you. You love preserve, raspberry, apricot, this is the dessert for you. If you don't, more for me. Love it. So here's our call to action. Don't forget to click the like button by giving us a virtual hug. When you do that, that lets myself and my team know that you're enjoying the content that we're putting out for you. It allows us to go back to the thinking lab to see what can we do that's different, or what can we recreate, or just create totally from scratch. That'll make you happy. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Well, we welcome you here with open arms and great big hugs. And also, share this channel with your family and friends. They'll appreciate it. And I want to thank you for hanging out with me today, virtually. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really do appreciate your time. Again, thank you for eating virtually while I eat physically, but you too can do this as well. The holidays are here and people are tight on cash. You can make these beautiful food gifts that people really, really appreciate because it came from your heart. And so do this and let me know how it came out for you. Thank you again. God bless.